Welcome to Life Matters. My name is Brendan O'Connell. I'm your host. Today's show examines one of the primary reasons for the burgeoning number of abortions since the 1960s, the welfare state in America. How did it eviscerate the two-parent family and thereby incentivize the desire to get an abortion? Does personal responsibility become a victim in the welfare state? Does the learned lack of responsibility carry over into sex and procreation? Our guest today is an author, columnist, and commentator on American society. She'll share her experience and insights with us. I confidently believe you'll find today's show to be unique, informative, content-rich, truthful, and thought-provoking. Today's guest was an unemployed mother on welfare. As a teenager and young adult, she had run-ins with the law and had 4 abortions. She had an epiphany in her life and converted to Christianity. Today, she is a writer and spokeswoman for the conservative Christian political issues. She opposes the welfare system and abortion and promotes stable families through self-reliance. She is the founder and president of the Coalition on Urban Renewal and Education. She is a syndicated columnist for Scripps Howard News Service. Her columns appear frequently right here in the op-ed page in the Boston Herald. And she has written several books on America's culture, including White Ghetto, How Middle-Class America Reflects Inner-City Decay. Well, welcome, Ms. Star Parker.
Well, thank you. It's good to be with you.
Nice to have you today. Before we chat with Star Parker, I'd just like to mention the call-in phone number, should our audience have any questions for our guest. The phone number is 617-708-3290. Well, Star, what was it like being a teenager and a young adult in your world?
Well, my world was one of real confusion as a teenager and a young adult because I, if you will, came of age right at the end of the 60s. So Dr. King had been killed and the cities were on fire. And my dad was in the military, so we were not a part of that. Even though he and my mom married young and grew up in the South, they did not open those doors to us of racism and the things that were going on there. Mm-hmm. So the environment that I grew up with was a little bit sheltered about what was going on in this country because we were across the water. We were based in Japan during the Vietnam War as well. I came back. I'm 12 years old. City's on fire. The people that I met up with were living very lawless lives, and America had changed. Most interesting occurrences during the Civil Rights Movement, 2 other phenomena were taking place in our society. We were having a sexual revolution, and we had declared a war on poverty. So the mentality with all of these things going on for a young person like myself was I could do anything I want to, and there were no longer consequences to those decisions, that they were safety nets, that I grew up in this entitlement mentality that based on what my ancestors had gone through and the color of my skin, I could blame all my problems on somebody else. So I started that very early in life, criminal activity, drug activity, and as you mentioned in the bio introduction, sexual activity that led me in and out of abortion clinic after clinic. It had become my birth control. And it wasn't until after the 4th time that I just had a gut instinct way down deep inside that there has to be something wrong with this. And so in not changing my sexual behaviors, I got pregnant again very quickly, and this time I opted to have that child, and that's how I ended up on welfare. Mm-hmm.
I see. And what was your mindset when you decided to have each of those 4 abortions? I guess you've related to it a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't think about it at all. In fact, that's one of the tragedies of abortion. It's sold as an entitlement. People are not given much thought that this is life, that God has called His reward, and that we should appreciate any opportunity to bring forth life, regardless of the circumstances where that child was conceptual. I never even thought about it. It just, you get pregnant, you abort. You get pregnant, you abort. And just even the mentality that we hear often in these discussions. I base my offices in Washington, D.C., and you hear it all of the time there, but even in a lot of legislatures, that in education policy, we should tell young kids that they have options, that we should not tell them about chastity or about abstinence. And I didn't grow up with those messages either. And so now, of course, it's perpetuated than when I was young, but I didn't think about it at all.
So you're saying back then, chastity and abstinence were not preached at all to the extent in our society. I know nowadays they have some abstinence programs on the federal level.
With a fight. They had to fight, and they still fight for it.
And you and I are about the same age, and I know there was nothing like that around when we were.
No, what happened was the left took over our schools and most institutions, but particularly the schools, and they replaced home ec classes with sex clinics. My older sister, when she went to school, she had home ec. By the time I got to high school, I had sex ed. So that just introducing young people to the idea that they're sexual beings and they do not have to think about long-term consequences or decisions or behaviors, we've already given them the recipe for disaster, and some more so than others, including people like myself, who are already very vulnerable to just let everything go and make bad choices.
I see. Do you have any emotional or psychological or spiritual misgivings subsequent to these abortions?
No, I don't, and I'm one of the blessed few because I work in Crisis Pregnancy Center World now. I'm on the board of advisors for a large umbrella organization for crisis pregnancy centers, and I've worked in every aspect. I mean, I'm one that really believes in that we are going to rid this nation of abortion. So from the street walking to the signs to the clinic to working one-on-one with women that are attempting to recover. And what's interesting is, although I had no scar, God just miraculously healed me. The others aren't that fortunate. One of the biggest growth areas in pro-life activism and work today is in the post-abortive ministries. We're starting to see our 4,000 crisis centers put in post-abortive work so that they can help people through this horrible decision that they made. We're seeing memorials grow all over this country where people can name their child and go in. You said what's happened, this phenomenon is now we're 20 years into a lot of people giving second thought to what they did. You know, abortion has been a law for a long time, but it's interesting how the generation preceding that bottom of the baby boomer, they married and they produced other children, and so for them it might be just a secret, silent sin. But there are many others who early on and all their life were sexually promiscuous and continued through college. They bought the idea of the feminists that you can postpone marriage, you can control birth, you have reproductive rights, and they bought it hook, line, and sinker. So this group that we're actually concerned about, those of us that are social thinkers in Washington, because they've never married nor bore children. And that's the group that we're starting to see as they enter their 40s, they're more repentant. In fact, they feel very broken when they confront the fact that the only child they may have ever bore, they aborted when they were in college.
Wow. What role did your faith in having converting you from a you were pro-abortion to pro-life mindset?
Well, I didn't think about it in those terms, of course, because I wasn't even what we now call political or polemic, as some like to call me. I just did it. And then finally, when I was living in welfare is when a transition occurred in my own personal life. The welfare state is very cruel. It's not just cruel to the taxpayer, it's cruel to the people that we say we're trying to help. And it's like an enslavement, an entrapment. And the rules to welfare were don't work, don't save, don't get married, and we'll keep you entrapped. We'll take care of you, this womb-to-tomb philosophy that we hear often out of the left and the party of the left. And so what happened was, I got in there and I just felt that this is where I'm supposed to live, and so I lived like that. But I met some Christian people who told me that my lifestyle was totally unacceptable to God, and that resonated. And once I went to church with them, there was a process of God not just saving me from myself and the destruction in my life, but also then working me through other areas, including, what does He say about life? And that's what I adopted. Everything that I felt with now my new biblical worldview, that was true and I'm the liar. So what did He say about life? He said that He did this. This is His reward. He even told us what to do with our sexual energies. So I believed that and I started living like that. And eventually He even talked to me about His economic plan. And that's what led me not only to get off welfare, but now to work in changing all welfare policy so that no one will live like that.
And how does that happen you're in Washington, D.C. a lot, I presume, because that's where a lot of federal legislation is. What kind of policies do you work on down there?
Yeah, it's where all of them are. In fact, I had no intentions on leaving California.